Morning, finally. We're on Psalm what? 69 verses 20. Let's just do 20 to 22. Reproach hath broke my heart. I'm full of grief. I looked for one to pity me, but none I found. Comforters found I none. They also bitter gall did give unto me for my meat. They gave me vinegar to drink, when as my thirst was great. Before them let their table prove a snare, and do thou make their welfare and prosperity a trap themselves to take. Afternoon, morning here. How about, let's see here. No, that's long meter. Ah. Yeah, we'll sing it to Mir. Reproach hath broke my heart, I'm full of grief. I looked for one to pity me, but none I found. Comforters found I none. They also bitter gall did give unto me for my meat. They gave me vinegar to drink, when as my thirst was great. Before them let their table prove a snare, and do thou make their welfare and prosperity trap themselves to take. Morning, morning, and morning. Excuse me. Goodness. Uh, let's see here. Afternoon. 414 in the BB book. Ah. Okay, it's not in Gadsby. Be joyful in God, all ye lands of the earth. Oh, serve him with gladness and fear. Exult in his presence with music and mirth. With love and devotion draw near. For Jehovah is God, and Jehovah alone, creator and ruler o'er all. We are his people, his scepter we own, his sheep, and we follow his call. Oh, enter his gates with thanksgiving and song, your vows in his temple proclaim. His praise with melodious accordance prolong, and bless his adorable name. For good is the Lord, inexpressibly good, and we are the work of his hand. His mercy and truth from eternity stood, and shall to eternity stand. Now, there's a tune to this, I know, and it's be joyful in God, all ye lands of the earth. Oh, sir. Yeah, we'll sing this to Lone Pilgrim. That's a good one. That's a good tune. I like the old words to Lone Pilgrim. How did you come to know predestination is true? When I tried to disprove it using scripture, every page of the Bible seemed to teach it. And I was forced to bow under the mighty hand of God and acknowledge his sovereignty over all things. Be joyful in God, all ye lands of the earth. Oh, serve him with gladness and fear. Exalt in his presence with music and mirth. With love and devotion draw near. Ain't that a pretty tune? For Jehovah is God, and Jehovah alone, creator and ruler o'er all, and we are his people, his scepter we own, his sheep, and we follow his call. I'm confounding two tunes there, I believe. Let's try it again here. Oh, enter his gates with thanksgiving and praise. Your vows in his temple proclaim. Has praise with melodious chordons prolong, and bless his adorable name. I have conflated two tunes, and I apologize. We'll get the last one right. Before good is the Lord, inexpressibly good, His mercy and let's just start that again. For good is the Lord, inexpressibly good, and we are the works of his hands. His mercy and truth from eternity stood, and shall to eternity stand. Oh, wow. I don't know. I think it just means dead. I don't think it thinks it means to heaven. I think it means that that Saul and his son were in the grave. That's what I think, anyway. I'll have to look at that more closely, but right now that's what I think. I think it's just in the grave. I apologize for messing that tune up, conflating two tunes, the first part of one and the second part of another. Yeah, I think it just means dead. Excuse me, goodness gracious sakes alive. My brother and I have to be briefer than I'd like today, but that may be good for you because I may just be as dry and ignorant as I can be. I do want to mention something, though. Y'all remember some time back, I said that the commandment that says you shall not take the name of the Lord in vain had nothing to do with cussing. Well, lo and behold, a video of Michael Heiser was put up today, and he said the same thing and said the same thing I did about it. That taking the name means bearing the name like a bride bears the name of her husband. Yes, I know that I shouldn't, but I felt a little better knowing that somebody else, particularly someone, even though he got some Arminian notions, I think a lot of as far as some of the stuff he has to say. And he come up with that same thing. So I think that's great. That has nothing to do with what comes out of your mouth. Isaiah 24. I just want to look at verse 4 and 5. Mainly 5. Oh, excuse me. I have to run all over the world here today, but I want to mention this. The earth mourneth and fadeth away. The world languisheth and fadeth away. The haughty people of the earth do languish. The earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof. And they that dwell therein are because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, broken the everlasting covenant. I listened to Naked Bible. We couldn't follow his reading. Are you talking about the one that I talked about the other day? Brother Wayne, I don't consider you ignorant, so I think you ought to listen to it again. Do I think John MacArthur is a Calvinist? Yes, I do. He's a Calvinist and a dispensationalist. Doesn't mean I like everything he says. Doesn't mean I don't like everything he says, but I'm not one to judge old MacArthur or anyone else on that. The earth is defiled under the inhabitants thereof. Yeah, Revelation study. Tell you what, if you got to start that Revelation study at 1. I mean, you got to start that at verse 1:1. In fact, the introduction when he talks about it. Now he's a he's a late date on the book of Revelation. He's not an early dater, but when he's talking about that Old Testament in the book of Revelation, or were you talking about Revelation 12, where he's talking about that? Anyway, I don't know. What about the inhabitants of the earth? Man, Isaiah is just grabbing the whole bunch of them, and smacking them down. Look here. Verse 1, behold, the Lord maketh the earth empty. Whoa, who made it empty? Why, mankind made it empty with their sins. That's what you'll hear. The Arminian world thinks mankind could do something to the earth. Behold, the Lord maketh the earth empty, maketh it waste, and turneth it upside down. As the Lord making, turning, and not only that, scattereth abroad the inhabitants thereof. Scattered them abroad. How'd they get where they are? They got scattered. Who did the scattering? Man? No, God. How did God scatter Israel? Sent the enemies to them. Yes, sent their enemies to them. Do you think that the Assyrian, do you think that Cyrus, do you think that Babylon, do you think that any of these people could have overcome the nation if God hadn't given them into their hands? Do you think that anyone could take on the people of God unless God had specifically brought them there for that reason? And he did. He brought them there. Remember what he said to Cyrus? Man, I'm going to hold his hand. Oh, he hadn't known me. Not only that, he says, and because you're going to say, my hand has done all this, I'm going to judge you for it. The Lord brought him down there and then told him what to do. Give all this into his hand. And then because his attitude was poor, the Lord says, I'm going to judge you for it. That's hard doctrine. The Lord maketh the earth empty. and maketh it waste, and turneth it upside down, and scattereth abroad the inhabitants thereof. And it shall be as with the people, so with the priest, as with the servant, so with his master, with the maid, so with her mistress, as with the buyer, so the seller. Man, just go on through that. In other words, it ain't going to make any difference what you are and what your station is in life. Well, I don't believe they're that old, but that's all right. I'm a young earther and a late date and an early date of revelation. I believe it appears to be that old because of the compression in the flood and in the separation when the continents were separated in the days of Peleg. That's my opinion. All of these folks, priest, people, buyer, seller, maid, mistress, priest, lay people, as it were. What about them? Doesn't matter who you are. That's what it says. Doesn't matter who you are. The land shall be utterly emptied and utterly spoiled. For the Lord has spoken this word. Yahweh has spoken it. If he's spoken it, it shall not go back. It'll accomplish the purpose which he sends it. And in this purpose, the land's going to be emptied and spoiled. Now, was it? If we're talking about the land of Israel, you know it was. The earth is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they've transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, and broken the everlasting covenant. Man, that's all of us. But it was particularly in reference to those who were the earthly people of God. It is a particular reference to those who were called by his name and who supposedly had taken his name. But I'll guarantee you most of these here are ones who have taken the name of the Lord in vain. How many are there today who are doing that? Taking the name of the Lord in vain. They claim to be Christians. They claim to be ministers of the gospel of Christ. They claim to stand in positions of prominence in what they call the Church of God. And yet they got one of them bumper stickers on the back of their cars that says coexist. Oh my goodness gracious sakes alive. They stand up there and sprinkle babies. They've transgressed the law and they've done what? Changed the ordinance. They changed it. Sprinkle a little water on you and call you dipped. I had an old time missionary Baptist one time. When he found out I was a Methodist, that's when I was going to the Methodist church. I really was never a Methodist, but I attended there. He said, I always wanted to ask a Methodist something, never have. I said, what's that? He says, old man. He said, you go out there to the graveyard to a funeral, You just sprinkle a little dirt on a person and call them buried. I had to laugh because he's right. I knew it. I knew what baptized meant. That's neither here nor there. These are up here, transgressing the law, trying to unite the church and the world. Remember the line in that old song? It's in Goebel, I believe, Goebel's hymn book. I don't think it's in, it might be in Lloyd's. It might be in both of them. I know it's not in Beebe's. At least I don't believe it is. See the world and church uniting in the realm of proselyting. My, my, my. That's what Israel in the old times, what did they do? Trusted in the chariots and horsemen of Egypt. They went down to their enemies, those who should have been their enemies, and hired them out as mercenaries to fight for them. As if, well, they knew that the Lord would no longer fight the battles for them because they transgressed the law. They changed the ordinance and they broke the everlasting covenant. That's something, isn't it? How old do you think Adam looked the day he was formed? That's a good question. I believe he looked like a full-grown man. Well, I believe dinosaurs disappeared in the flood. Let's just talk about carbon-14 dating here for a minute. I've got an artifact I know is 3,000 years old. I know it, okay? Right here in my hand. I've got some kind of article, some kind of artifact, and I know it's 3,000 years old. I can carbon date that. And anything that's kind of like it, I can carbon date it and say, if they come out the same, I can say, you know what? That's about 3,000 years old, just like this. But these people that's saying it's 40 million years old, this thing, they got nothing they know's 40 million years old to compare it to. So they expect me to have faith enough to believe that they know how that carbon atom's going to decay over a length of time that they can have no concept of how long it actually is. And with nothing to compare it to, brethren, I'm at a loss. I'm at a loss. Now, you know he wasn't no baby. Who was there to take care of him and nurse him other than God himself? Look here. Adam was created a full-grown man. Eve was created a full-grown woman. They didn't need to grow up. You got that right. It's as old as the Lord. As old as the creation. That's as young as the creation. I believe there's a lot that happened during that flood and the time right before and the time after it that we don't understand. And science will never explain it to you. Not correctly. Science may have an explanation, but that doesn't mean it's right. If we use science to examine the scriptures, where's our faith? Is your faith in God or is your faith in science? I say that to any part of it. Any part of it. When we try to use the wisdom of this world and the science of this world to give us a insight into the scriptures, ain't gonna happen. By faith we know. Let's see. Look here. 509. I know this is in the Gadsby. It's in about every hymnal, I think. Even the conditionalist hymn books. Faith is the brightest evidence of things beyond our sight, breaks through the clouds of flesh and sense, and dwells in heavenly light. It sets time past in present view, brings distant prospects home, of things 1,000 years ago or 1,000 years to come. Listen. By faith, we know the worlds were made by God's almighty word. By faith. That's what you need to know. Abram to unknown countries led. By faith, obeyed the Lord. He saw the city fair and high, built by the eternal hands, and faith assures us, though we die, that heavenly building stands. Get back to our text. How much confidence you going to have in those that do what? Transgress the law, changed the ordinance, and broken the everlasting covenant. And yet there's people out there, they want us to recognize them as ministers of the gospel, male or female. Doesn't matter. Long as your conscience is satisfied. Brethren, listen to me and listen good. This people shall dwell alone and not be numbered among the nations. One of Israel's biggest faults was trying to be like the nations round about them, wasn't it? Isn't that what they said? When they told God, and they told Samuel, give us a king. We want to be like the nations round about. Now they all got a king. Give us a king. What did God tell Samuel? Samuel, They haven't rejected you. They've rejected me. We will not have this man, or in this case, this God, to reign over us. Give us a man. We'll take care of the ordinance. We'll take care of everything. Just give us a man to rule over us and reign over us. And we are the same way unless the Lord, by his grace, makes it otherwise. Do you believe that? I believe that with all my heart. We ain't no better than them. No, we're not. We're not any better than those Israelites were. Oh, I'm a lot better than they are. Can't you hear someone say it now? All right. All right. Tell me about your law keeping. Tell me how good you are. Tell me about that covenant. Listen. Listen. It's amazing what people will do to try to fit in, isn't it? Whatever it takes. Yeah, I can believe that. Whatever it takes. You really believe you keep the law was today? I don't believe a word of it. I don't believe you believe that. uh, there's millions out there today perverting the ordinance of God, who consider the everlasting covenant a figment of a religious imagination gone to seed, and who transgress the law of God in their attempts to obey it. And all the while, they call themselves Christian. What do you think, brethren? Is that right, or was this wrong? Where do we stand? Do we stand with the ecumenicists of this present evil world, willing to take anything and everything? Or do we realize that God's kingdom is manifested in his congregations, just like it was manifested in Israel? Just as the majority of those called Israel turned away from it, so the majority of those called Christians have turned away from it today. And like the Pharisees, they say, where is the kingdom? I don't see it. And that's because they acknowledge not the King. When we are made to realize that Jesus, yes, the Jesus that died, that rose again, that ascended into heaven, is the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, that he is seated on the throne now, and that he upholds all things by the word of his power, that his government is over the whole of this creation, no matter when it was, how old or how new it is. When we're made to see that, then we understand. He has set his king, that God has set his king on his holy hill of Zion. And that's where we come, by grace, through his mercy. And we desire the law, not written in tables of stone, but I'll put my laws in their hearts and write them on the inward parts. We understand the ordinance, that which God has ordained. No sacraments in the church, no sacraments among the congregation, only an ordinance. And we understand the everlasting covenant. It's not something made with man. The everlasting covenant secures the redemption of all of those whom God gave his son before the foundation of the world. Now, I'm going to hush here because I have to go run probably 2 or 3 stores, try and find a couple of things. Any questions or comments? What was the everlasting covenant they broke? That's a good question. And I wonder about the translation of that word broke. I'll admit I didn't look it up. A lot of times things like that probably means more like yeah, Zoom meeting tonight. Let me see this here interlinear and see if it gives us any correction on that. Well, I can't remember where I was. Common grace. Yes, it needs to be tore into. I agree with that. Horner said some good things. 24:5. Yeah. violate, curse the everlasting covenant. There you go. Now we're getting in there. Me? Who's my favorite pastor? Lord, I don't know. I had one of the best for many years, and that's Jim Poole. I don't know who it would be today. There's many that I know and love, and others I like, and that. Therefore, curse the everlasting covenant. Man, oh man. See there? Not just breaking it, they cursed it. And do I think all Israel be saved? That depends. You're talking about natural Israel or spiritual Israel? If you're talking about spiritual Israel, every one of them. If you're talking about natural Israel, absolutely not. I don't know why it says break it. It says to break the statute. Yeah, I think that's an interesting rendering in the interlinear. They'll curse the everlasting covenant. Man, I tell you what, look at Wesley and other Arminians, what they think of the everlasting covenant. They've cursed it. I think there's a lot of truth in that. My favorite pastor. There's a lot of people I like to listen to that I disagree with about half of what they say. But I like to listen to them because they make me think. I like to listen to James White. That's just liking to listen to him. I ain't saying I'm ready to take him in. I like to listen to Michael Heiser. I like to listen to Frank Viola. I like to listen to Eric Metaxas, and he's got some crazy things there. Everlasting does not necessarily mean what we think it does, yes. Oh, goodness, I got my Septuagint right here. Let's just see how they translated that. Oh. And the earth acted lawlessly on account of the ones inhabiting her, for they transgressed the law of the Lord and effaced and bartered away the orders, the eternal covenant. There again, doesn't say they break it. It says they effaced and bartered away. They considered it worthless. And they do use the word eonon, which is age lasting. Eonion, eternal or age lasting. Prostagmata, don't know that one. Alexon, watered away. Efface, Dieskidason. Okie dokie. So the Septuagint has some interesting things. I don't have any tattoos. I ain't at war with them that do have them, but they don't want one. I think I've told this before. My dad was in the South Pacific in World War II, Philippines and Japan, New Guinea. Mom's brothers were in Korea. Dad's brother was in the Pacific after, kind of between Korea and World War II. And them three, they all come back with tattoos. That's pretty tattoos. My dad didn't have any tattoos. And I asked him that one time. I said, how come you've never had tattoos? You over there. Kent's got tattoos. Robert, John D., they all got tattoos. You don't. Said the line was too long. I said, the line was too long? What do you mean by that? He said, I sobered up before they got to me. Because that was them old days when they had that hammer and that little pad with them needles on it, and they'd hammer it into your skin. Yeah, if that's anything like a tattoo, Brother Wayne Gregory, that's what I hope I have too. I hope I have a seal of God in the forehead and in the hand. I almost got a tattoo once, but I didn't. I'm not proud that I'm not saying that to brag. I'm just saying I didn't. I probably chickened out when I heard had Tom Waits say it in that song. I lost my equilibrium, my car keys, and my pride. The tattoo parlor's warm, so I hustle there inside. In the grinding of that buzzsaw, what you want that thing to say? I said, now don't misspell her name, buddy. She's the one that got away. I think when I heard the grinding of that buzzsaw, I decided, well, maybe not. All right, now I got to get out of here. We talking about crazy things now. Bow with me. Lord, bless us as we go our separate ways and keep us in thy grace by thy mercy. Hold us up. Give us strength. Keep us in peace. May we be blessed to hold each other up before the throne of grace in prayer. May we be blessed to have our church fellowship. Strengthen all thy congregations wherever thou hast set them up. And cause us to see the failings of the false. Which in Jesus' name we ask. Amen. All right, folks, I'm going to get out of here now. I thank y'all for being here. I thank you for your questions, comments, and Lord willing, we'll see you tomorrow.